Part 109. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1090. Latest website. After Lu Feng settled everything, he called Su Yurong again in the afternoon and asked her to help keep an eye on the lithography machine. On the phone, Su Yurong talked about Mr. Feng's hospitalization. Find out about Lu Feng's current situation. Lu Feng also made it clear on the phone that she had nothing to do in mainland China, and that Jia Feng was very stable now. He asked her to make it clear to several shareholders of United Capital not to worry too much. At the same time, Lu Feng also told her that if she purchased a lithography machine overseas and planned to activate Hurricane Capital for docking, Su Yurong would need help whether it was cargo ships or ports. The person on the other end of the phone agreed wholeheartedly and hung up the phone after chatting about the current situation. In the morning in the United States, meetings have been quite intensive in the past few days. Senior executives of Wall Street financial groups have been meeting continuously, including not only financial tycoons, but also senior executives from Silicon Valley technology, manufacturing, and political circles. The atmosphere in the conference room was rather solemn. Lambert was sitting on a chair, holding his chin with one hand, while a white man in his 60s across from him was talking non-stop. This matter must be taken seriously. Now the whole world is watching this matter. If Lu Feng and Jia Feng Group are safe and sound, our global influence will decline. This is not a matter for the business community, let alone an enterprise. We need to show our attitude, and even more importantly, our ability when it comes to matters of time, the man said decisively. I agree with what he said. If this thing fails, Europe's influence will rise. Many companies know that Schroeder Group invested in Jia Feng. If Jia Feng Group is safe, there will be more companies around the world. Companies go to Europe to raise funds. From a macro level, that moment is the end of our business, and the rest is just a matter of time. The end? Whoever dares to let it end will be put in the coffin. The financial system in the United States is indeed developed, and various financing platforms are also very powerful, but isn't European capital good enough? No. It's very good, but it doesn't dare to be very good. The operating rules of this world are that if you want to ensure that you are the smartest in the world, it is very simple. When someone smarter than you appears, kill him. Jia Feng has made a very bad start, and it is easy for some companies in the world that do not want to go to the United States to raise funds or go public to have another equal choice. A few days ago, Shi Watanabe had arrived in New York. He had been targeting Jia Feng since the year before last. Although he made mistakes in the Thai market, he contributed a lot this time and was the core promoter of this matter. Finally, he returned to New York. This time he was transferred to Motorola headquarters as president of the group's overseas business. Watanabe was so excited when he received the news of his promotion. After so many years, he is still back. Although this time he is not at Goldman Sachs, he is one step closer to Wall Street. Wall Street, the headquarters of Goldman Sachs Group. In Eisen's office, Watanabe was dressed in a suit and shook Eisen's hand with a restrained smile on his face. We finally met. It's a pity that Mr. Lambert is in a meeting now and can't meet you. I congratulate you on his behalf, Eisen said while holding Watanabe's hand. You're too polite. These are all what I should do. I just walked through the entire Wall Street, and it's still the same as before. It's very emotional. Watanabe sat down and said. Yes, this place will not change. It will always be the financial heart of the earth. What are your plans after taking up your new position? Eisen asked. I have been meeting at Motorola these past few days. Yesterday it was confirmed that I will handle Jia Feng Group's affairs. As a shareholder of Motorola, Goldman Sachs Group and we are also our closest friends. Today I will share my thoughts. In fact, we should do it from multiple aspects, such as filing a legal lawsuit in China. Whether we can win the lawsuit is not important. What is important is to show it to other companies. At the same time, we can put pressure on GFN Group's other overseas partners, such as Nokia, to cut off its overseas markets, overseas supply chains, and overseas technology. Watanabe kept talking about his thoughts. GFN had made a breakthrough in technology, but it was still far from making a chip. As long as GFN was sanctioned, its death would only be a matter of time. Domestically, Lu Feng paid no attention to He Zheng. Apart from understanding the market situation with Zhu Lidong, his main focus was on searching for lithography machines around the world through his own connections. As Mr. Watanabe began to take up his post, he began to call global technology companies, hoping that these companies would denounce GFN Group. At the same time, domestic companies such as Motorola, Sony, Panasonic, and Toshiba issued statements that they would sue GFN Group domestically in the near future. Under the game of private capital, there is also a competition at the national level. International public opinion has launched a fierce attack on domestic patent protection issues. Coupled with some private experts, media, and lackeys who are dedicated to the United States, public opinion has been extremely fierce for a while. A collection of various domestic stories, the media compiled a series of stories. As long as patent rights are infringed abroad, this person will never be able to hold his head up. There is no legal supervision at all. It is completely a moral self-condemnation and must bow and apologize. Coupled with the accessories of the sewer oil paper bag, no one will ever cut the queue, the restaurant plates are washed 7 times, the legendary summer camp and a series of short stories began to be promoted. 10 years later, these little stories were circulated on the internet and became the most serious topics in childhood, leading to self-criticism and reflection. However, they became jokes when they grew up. 3 days passed by in a flash. Compared with the last reception work, GFN was fully prepared this time. He made detailed and thoughtful arrangements for the hotel, vehicles, and restaurants where he would stay. He Zheng arrived at the municipal government at around 8 o'clock in the morning. In the office, Mayor Zhou looked a little sleepy. He sat down and made a cup of tea and said, "I just arrived in the afternoon. Let's go back to sleep later. This time, I'd better trouble you, team leader he, to put in some kind words, there are some things, you can take your time, don't rush this moment, Lu Feng has a bad temper, just avoid him. It's easy for me to say that the guidance matter can be put aside later. I came here so early in the morning just to say one thing. I can tolerate Lu Feng's temper. I'm just afraid that he will cause trouble for you on today's occasion." He Zheng took a sip of tea and said thoughtfully, "My idea is, otherwise, let him stop showing up. That surnamed Lu is so dumb, let him come forward." Mayor Zhou carefully considered what he said and felt that he was right. He had not had much contact with Lu Feng since then. Based on his contacts during this period, he was indeed not suitable for reception and could easily say the wrong thing. "When I come, I definitely want to see Lu Feng. Now that he is famous, I will arrange for him to talk less and stand back." Mayor Zhou agreed. "Then what I said before still counts. Don't worry when the time comes. After this matter is over, I will have someone write something and mail it over. It's difficult for Lu Feng to handle it, so you can just let those other bosses handle it. It's really not possible. And the board of directors, I still don't believe that no one can control him," He Zheng said with a bit of anger. Okay, Mayor Zhou thanked him quickly. He Zheng had some words he didn't say. In fact, he was still hoping that something would happen to Lu Feng. As long as he offended Mayor Zhou to death over this matter, Lu Feng's future would definitely be difficult. Based on his understanding of people like Lu Feng, he just doesn't know the heights of the sky and the earth, has never kicked an iron plate, and doesn't know pain. In addition, he is young, and with his current achievements, it is normal to be a little crazy. Walking out of the city hall, He Zheng looked at the gloomy sky, snorted coldly, and said to himself, "You have to suffer a little, so that you can grow faster. You don't know how high the sky is. At GFeng headquarters, Lu Feng came just before noon and asked Duo to play on the computer. He personally checked the various arrangements of the reception team. Except that there was no media, this reception was the highest standard for GFeng. Yesterday, the headquarters building the sanitation was cleaned up, the vehicles at the door were cleared, and banners were hung. The R/U0026D company has set up a viewing area to display the results as clearly as possible. At the same time, it has arranged for several senior executives from Lyokan to be responsible for explanations, and the exhibition has been divided into 3 areas, past, present and future, so that leaders can better learn. The level of care was unimaginable to He Zheng. After dinner, Lu Feng summoned a group of senior executives such as Wei Yandan, Zhu Lidong, Lyokan, Du Guoying, etc., and checked again before he felt relieved. Everyone will leave for the airport in a moment. This time we want to show a corporate image full of technology. Don't mention those 2 vulgar things to me. Just don't open your mouth. How much money do we make? It's too vulgar. Mr. Zhu, what about you? Just try not to talk. If people ask, just say how many provinces have you brought technological life to the people, don't talk about market share, shut up about profit margins, you know, Lu Feng said to Zhu Lidong. Zhu Lidong nodded. If the leader asks, the goal of the company is just 4 words, stars and seas. We want to be a company that can fly out of the universe. With science and technology as the guideline, we should not only catch up with the world's best, but also have a sense of future responsibility to lead beyond. Way in general, if the leader asks about management, remember that it is people-oriented, and our employees are happy, positive, full of sunshine, and passionate about technology. Lyokan couldn't hold it in anymore after hearing these words, and said, Mr. Lu, these words are too false. How can you be happy at work? Are you happy that I complimented you on your handsomeness? Lu Feng stared at him and said angrily, are you good looking? You don't have a mirror at home. Lies are like liquor. Although it hurts the body, it can't be used in formal occasions, so just say that's a lot, let's go. The group of people went downstairs and got in the car. Lu Feng was dressed particularly energetic today. He had his hair combed back and was wearing a high-end suit. He even wore a pair of rimless glasses to appear educated. When they arrived at the VIP pickup hall at the airport, the surrounding people looked over at him unconsciously. Just by looking at this outfit, you can tell that this person is special. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1091. Latest website. 10 minutes later, Mayor Zhou and He Zheng came with their people. They were stunned when they saw Lu Feng dressed up so formally. Vice Mayor Lu came over and asked Lu Feng, why are you still dressed up? Isn't this an important person coming? Let's be more formal. Lu Feng straightened his back as he spoke. He Zheng, who was standing not far away, had a rather unhappy look on his face when he heard these words. He was a small person and was looked down upon by others. He Zheng couldn't help but said to Mayor Zhou, it would be better for him to stop talking for a while. It doesn't matter if you offend me, but it may not be easy to deal with if you offend others. Vice Mayor Lu also whispered to Lu Feng, well, stand back for a while, no one will ask, try not to talk, control your bad temper, and if you have any technical problems, let Mr. Lu talk more. You still don't believe me? I'm not a fool. I know what to say and what not to say, Lu Feng explained. I know, this time is different from before. Vice Mayor Lu hurriedly comforted him. If he could yell with Mayor Zhou, what else would he not dare to do? As the airport announcement rang, a passenger plane landed safely. The etiquette ladies on the scene hurriedly stood up. A few minutes later, a man in his 50s or 60s stepped out. He was in a dignified state and did not look old at all. followed by there were more than a dozen people. Mayor Joe hurriedly stepped forward, took the man's hand and said politely, "Minister Niu, thank you for your hard work. It's not hard work, it's all for the development of science and technology. Your city can be said to have played a leading role in the country in the field of semiconductors," Minister Niu praised. "The main reason is that we have conscientiously implemented the work content of the Science and Technology Committee and your spirit," Mayor Joe applauded. Seeing that Mayor Joe's first wave of greetings was about to pass, He Zheng hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Thank you for your hard work. My name is He Zheng. I am the leader of the preliminary inspection team. You are welcome to inspect the work. You guys have worked hard too." Minister Niu looked at He Zheng and said casually, "We have learned during this period that Shenzhen's layout in semiconductors is mainly due to your hard work," and pointed out the direction for them. "The most important thing is that after Mayor Joe came up, he worked hard as soon as possible. The work has made substantial progress." He Zheng put the credit on Mayor Joe. "Our leadership is on the one hand, and the most important thing is the frontline workers. If there is a breakthrough, it must be implemented and bear fruit, so that the spring breeze of science and technology can blow into thousands of households." Minister Niu glanced at the scene and said, "Who is the person in charge of GFN?" When Vice Mayor Lu heard this, he hurriedly pushed Liukan forward, trying to get him to come forward and speak. Liukan stepped back. Lu Feng took 2 steps forward, stretched out his hands to shake hands and said, "Hello, I am the founder of GFN Group, Lu Feng, welcomes you to inspect GFN Group. Our achievements have been valued by you, and I feel quite proud and satisfied. You are indeed very young." Minister Niu looked at Lu Feng. This young man was handsome, polite, and so capable. How could anyone dislike him? How does the current overall technology compare with the world's first-class standards? In terms of production standards, we are still far behind. We have only made breakthroughs in some core key points. However, we are confident that we will come up with a production plan next year and achieve mass production, mainly for mobile phones. GFN is in, and Nokia's cooperation has absorbed a lot of foreign second-generation 2G digital communication technology, and I believe that by then, purely domestically produced mobile phones will be available," Lu Feng said. National production? Compared with the chip industry, this is another unexpected surprise. Minister Niu looked happy. The mobile phone industry chain is no worse than semiconductors. If national production of mobile phones can be achieved, it will boost the domestic industry. Huge. It's not so much a surprise as it is what we deserve. With your foresight in the field of science and technology, coupled with the hard-working Chinese people who have put in so much blood, sweat, and toil, all of this is what it should be," Lu Feng replied. This answer made him very satisfied, and he couldn't stop smiling on his face, and he praised Lu Feng repeatedly. He Zheng's expression on the side was stiff, and Lu Feng stood there vomiting lotus flowers, introducing GFN's research and development results, praising himself and his leaders in words, which was completely different from the arrogant appearance in front of Mayor Zhou. If we talk about the previous, Lu Feng is more like a bad boy, so at this moment he is a good boy who studies well. Mayor Zhou stood there with a look on his face, scolding the flatterer in his heart, but he also felt that he was not in a good position and could not let Lu Feng flatter him. It took half an hour to pick up the airport, and most of the time was spent chatting with Minister Niu. Lu Feng showed that he was outstanding in ability, humble, and had a little humor in his speech. He treated Minister Niu as an elder. Generally speaking, with respect, when it comes to industry, it refers to the big picture. It refers to all mankind at every turn, and 1 billion people are included in one mouth. After getting in the car, he went straight from the airport to the headquarters of GFN Group. In the car, Mayor Zhou looked at Vice Mayor Lu next to him with a dark face and said, "How can he be so talkative? Is he the one who talks a lot? Give him a call, don't look like a flatterer, I've never seen such a person before, let me tell you, the leader hates this kind of person." Vice Mayor Lu hurriedly took out his mobile phone and called Lu Feng. In the other car, He Zheng's face was not good looking either. He originally thought that Lu Feng was a stupid young man, and he would definitely get something wrong today. But now he saw that he was more like a stupid young man, which made him very sad. I was unhappy. The most important thing was that Lu Feng had said so much without even mentioning him or Mayor Zhou. As the vehicle drove into GFN Group's headquarters, hundreds of people had gathered downstairs. Amidst warm applause, Lu Feng got out of the vehicle first, and then trotted all the way to Minister Niu's car door under the eyes of Mayor Zhou and He Zheng. He opened the car door himself. This person is really disgusting. The last thing I despise is this kind of person who flatters others. Why didn't I see that he was this kind of person before? He Zheng saw Lu Feng open the door with a smile on his face. His teeth were itching with anger. He was flattering. In this regard, he is actually more skilled than himself. Mayor Zhou also had a dark face, and everyone walked towards the car. Minister Niu got out of the car, looked up at the headquarters building and asked, "Does this building all belong to your company?" Yes, there are now more than 2,000 people working in the headquarters. There are 3 subordinate production plants in Tianjin, Suzhou, and Dongguan. The total number of employees is about to exceed 100,000. There are also many subordinate supporting companies, ranging from product design to packaging, raw material processing, transportation, and various supporting enterprises Lu Feng introduced. It's very comprehensive. It's all in your own hands. How are the employees treated? Our company is people-oriented, and Mr. Wei is in charge of this aspect. Lu Feng also knew that he would make people hate him if he said too much, so he winked at Wei Yandan and took a step back. He Zheng stepped forward, reached out, and gently pulled Lu Feng's sleeves, pulling them back, staring at him with a bad expression. Wei Yandan and Lu Cheng introduced some information about the company respectively. Minister Niu nodded and walked inside. Lu Feng took 2 steps forward and opened the door. He Zheng coughed and said, "Mr. Lu, there is no need to work so hard. I believe that as long as you do a good job on weekdays, the leaders will know." No, Lu Feng glanced at He Zheng and explained to Minister Niu, "I am actually quite lazy on weekdays. The company can be what it is today, firstly because of the efforts of frontline employees, and secondly because of the leaders in the city. The positive performance today actually has nothing to do with who is here. The main reason is that I respect the elderly. I have always felt that as long as the work is done properly, it doesn't matter if the leader does not lead, but the elders must be respected. This is taught in the family since childhood, especially today when I saw Minister Niu. He was really friendly, like the uncle next door." Lu Feng still helped Mayor Zhou, but he didn't mention He Zheng. "Respecting the old and loving the young is also a Chinese virtue," Mayor Zhou interjected from the side. Minister Niu laughed when he heard this. Everyone is afraid of the power of the leader, but respecting the leader as an elder transcends the scope of power and at the same time draws in the relationship between people. As a person, what I fear most is that others will lie in front of me. This way I don't understand the real situation below, which is not conducive to development. If you have any problems, just show them out and solve them. Only in this way can you develop better." Minister Niu said to Lu Feng, "If you have any difficulties, speak up." Then team leader, he wanted to drink Mao Tai when he first came, is that fair to say? Lu Feng froze in embarrassment. He was stunned for a moment and hurriedly added, "Didn't you say he wanted to drink Mao Tai, mainly to match the banquet worth 2,000 yuan for a table?" As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere at the scene became subtle. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Lu Feng and He Zheng. At this moment, He Zheng's face was almost frozen. "Let's not talk about anything that has nothing to do with technology. 2,000 yuan is the cost of 5 tables of meals." Mr. Lu remembered it wrong, He Zheng hurriedly added. "I remembered it wrong, but I really remember that I was going to find the girl later." Lu Feng made another stab at it. "Mr. Lu, Don't talk nonsense. What's going on? Vice Mayor Lu hurriedly stepped forward and said, please stop talking. If there's anything you don't know, just talk nonsense. Oh, look at me, I've been so busy lately. Not only do I have to cooperate with team leader He in his inspection, but I also have to help him write guidance for the semiconductor industry. Otherwise, my company will be in trouble. I was so scared last night that I didn't even think about it. Sleep well, Lu Feng said with an annoyed look on his face. Dozens of people at the scene were staring at Lu Feng's quiet voice. Minister Niu glanced at He Zheng's face with a rather unhappy expression. He Zheng lowered his head slightly, now eating Lu Feng's heart. It's not easy to be a technology company. You have to go through some twists and turns. Let's go upstairs and have a look. After speaking, Minister Niu walked towards the elevator. Lu Feng followed him, but before he took 2 steps, he was pulled behind by Vice Mayor Lu. He gritted his teeth and whispered, shut your mouth from now on and stop causing trouble. Do you hear me? Are you causing trouble? I'm not causing trouble, right? Lu Feng said, looking at his clothes that looked like he was eating someone. To be precise, Lu Feng hasn't started causing trouble yet. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1092. Latest website. Everyone got on the elevator and went all the way to the office area. They mainly met with the docking team headquartered in the R/U0026D company. They praised Jiafeng Group's model. The R/U0026D company is independent and there will be no layman guiding experts. After having a brief understanding of the group's subsidiaries, Minister Niu said to Lu Feng, you have a very good sense of crisis. The core material supply and technology are all in your own hands in irreplaceable directions. This kind of, although the development model means moving forward with a heavy burden, it is a steady approach, one step at a time. This is also the experience I accumulated in my last company. I founded a food company before, and the raw materials were severely restricted, even monopolized. As long as a food company has a good supply barrier of raw materials, it will definitely control the local market. Snack food industry, Lu Feng said, we can definitely be asset light, cooperate with overseas companies, and assemble domestically, but it is really difficult to live under the control of others. This is very good, but while developing ourselves, we must also help the development of the industry. As I just said, in the future, the DVD and mobile phone industries must be open. Only when the industry prospers can companies go further. With profits, they can invest in more. Only by researching and developing advanced technologies can we stay one step ahead. At the same time, we need to strengthen communication, cooperation, and active learning with overseas enterprises. Minister Niu said to Lu Feng, we are also willing to support domestic private enterprises to become bigger and stronger. In the future, we will strengthen support in this regard and establish special subsidy policies. Strengthening the attraction of overseas talents, this needs to be done together. This plan is indeed good. I think it is best to give overseas R/U0026D personnel better treatment, solve their children's schooling, family housing, and other problems, so that they can move to China with peace of mind, so that they will not be easily excluded from overseas. There is also the problem of overseas Chinese. Lu Feng thought for a while and continued, I attended the semiconductor exhibition in Paris some time ago and met an engineer. He really wanted to come back and make a contribution, and his subordinates and a mature team. When Minister Niu heard that the team became energetic, he looked at Lu Feng and asked, where are you from? From the other side. It's a good thing. This matter can be handled specially. It is definitely a green light. You tell him to come back with peace of mind. He can do whatever he wants. As long as their team can make something, the country can invest, Niu the minister assured. Lu Feng could tell that he wanted to win over people to the country, and hurriedly said, to Jiafeng Group, we will establish a subsidiary company when the time comes. Okay, you can contact me directly about this matter, and I will ask the secretary to give you my contact information later. Minister Niu gave instructions behind him. It was noon in a blink of an eye. On the way to the hotel, I asked a lot of questions. He Zheng also found every opportunity to speak. He completely ignored Mayor Zhou and showed himself first. At the door of the hotel, Mayor Zhou walked in accompanied by him. He stared at Lu Feng at the door, obviously unhappy with a flattering person like Lu Feng. As a human being, that's about it, He Zheng said meaningfully and turned around and went inside. Vice Mayor Lu came over and whispered to him, can you please help Mayor Zhou and don't always take the credit for yourself? People were a little unhappy just now and said that you are not a good guy. How long have we known each other, and you still don't understand me? Lu Feng took out a cigarette from his pocket and said, he has only been here for a short time. If you want to make a contribution to the semiconductor industry, it is also your contribution. To him, Bar. Vice Mayor Lu immediately smiled when he heard this. He took out a lighter and lit it for Lu Feng. He said, you are such a good person. Don't worry, I know it well, Lu Feng replied with a smile. But don't be so blunt with your praise. Take him with you. I'll tell you the news. He won't be able to stay for long. Vice Mayor Lu smiled connotationally. Oh, Lu Feng actually heard the inside information and said, congratulations in advance. Don't congratulate me. I can't get there. This position is not ordinary. A deputy will never become a deputy. Vice Mayor Lu looked at the time and said, let's go in. We will go to the R/U0026D company in the afternoon. Time is tight. I'll go back tomorrow afternoon. Lu Feng nodded, threw his half-smoked cigarette on the ground and entered the restaurant. Everyone had already sat down. He Zheng and Mayor Zhou surrounded Minister Niu on the left and right, taking the opportunity to talk about the work they had done. Using Jiafeng Group as the handle and covering the whole area to form industrial development, this is our next work. At the same time, we will do a good job as scientific and technological workers, use Shenzhen as the window to attract global talents, and build an overseas talent base in the future. Mayor Zhou sat nearby and glanced at He Zheng, and said seriously, we should organize these things in a planned way, especially after team leader he came and gave us a lot of opinions. The main reason is that Mayor Zhou's planning is good, and I just put forward a few small ideas. He Zheng cooperated from the side. The two of them sang together and were very humble, but when they talked about specific things, they played a tiny role in it, as if they were involved in everything. Technology is the first force for development. If we do solid work in this area, there will be tangible rewards. Minister Niu set the tone. On the matter of being solid, the person I have the most contact with is Deputy Mayor Lu. He has the most contact with us entrepreneurs. Lu Feng took the opportunity to interject. When Vice Mayor Lu heard Lu Feng mentioning him, his face suddenly lit up and he waved his hands repeatedly. No, it's all right. It's just the implementation of the city's policies. Of course, I am the most tired. Lu Feng changed the topic and shamelessly turned it to himself, and said to Minister Niu, especially in the three aspects of capital, technology, and talent, I don't know how to work hard. It took so much effort on my part to search at home and abroad, and it is indeed too difficult to put many things into one company. Vice Mayor Lu, who was originally smiling, froze. Mayor Zhou, Vice Mayor Lu, and He Zheng stared at Lu Feng with no smile on his face. If you have any difficulties, we can't let you look for money and people. As long as we can help, we will definitely help you, Minister Niu said hurriedly. Now he just hopes that the semiconductor industry will take root as soon as possible. As long as a market is formed in the country, it will be good. Even if the market is relatively weak, only with a spark can they have a place to blow the wind and work hard. Otherwise, it is useless to rush. Lithography machines are strictly controlled overseas, and the price is high. If we want to bring chips to the market, lithography machines are indispensable. I have been worrying about this for a while. If you have any difficulties, please tell me. Say, I won't be polite, Lu Feng said to him. The Science and Technology Commission will help you look into this matter. I will notify you as soon as there is news, Minister Niu promised. Okay, thank you so much. With a leader like you, my heart is in my heart. People say that the king of hell is easy to meet, but the devil is difficult to deal with. I didn't believe it before, but now I completely believe it. No wonder you can. Being a leader and being responsible for us entrepreneurs wholeheartedly is really touching. After saying this, Lu Feng raised the wine glass in his hand and said, I'd like to toast you. He Zheng was sitting aside with an extremely sad expression on his face. Lu Feng repeatedly nodded at him in front of the leader, which made him feel very unhappy. Minister Niu knew clearly about the people at the dinner table that the meal was neither salty nor bland. After lunch, it was lunch break. Lu Feng opened a room in the hotel and took a nap. As long as his affairs were done, as for things in the city, they are not that important. At 2:30 in the afternoon, everyone gathered downstairs, got in the car and went straight to the R/U0026D company. Following the predetermined process, they introduced the past and present life of Jiafeng R/U0026D company, from televisions to the chip industry. In the evening, Minister Niu was sent away. There was only one symposium left tomorrow morning. Before leaving, Lu Feng got the phone number. The other party also specifically told him to call if there is anything that can be solved. If it can be solved, it will be solved. Lu Feng looked at the phone number in his hand. Vice Mayor Lu knew what kind of character he was, so he stepped forward and said, I just want to be polite. Don't call me for everything, you know. I'm not a fool, don't worry. Lu Feng put the business card in his arms. He Zheng was standing not far away smoking a cigarette. Lu Feng felt unhappy no matter how he looked at him. He whispered to Mayor Zhou in a low voice, isn't this guy a little too crazy? When visiting the R/U0026D company in the afternoon, Minister Niu mentioned that Jiafeng R/U0026D company should communicate more with relevant units of the 909 project plan, integrate technology patents, and learn from each other. At the same time, Jiafeng should apply for special subsidies equivalent to the 909 plan. Especially the discounts in the research and development direction, especially in the construction of research and development centers, subsidies for equipment, subsidies for talents, etc. After all these years of Project 909, there are no projects that have been implemented. It is obvious that Jiafeng Group will be regarded as a key training target. With such an obvious move, no matter how stupid Mayor Zhou is, he knows that this inspection will not be easy. Since Jiafeng's status has been raised so high, why do I still flirt with the leader of a small inspection team? Young man, what's wrong with being so crazy? Mayor Zhou said to him, you better take care of yourself first. Should I take care of myself? He Zheng was stunned, feeling that something was wrong, and said, Mayor Zhou, we made an agreement before. What did you say? To do a good job, you must bend down like a bully and provide good services to the enterprise. Didn't you just listen to what Minister Niu said? Technology is the primary productive force, and engineers are the engines. We must care for them like giant pandas. Mayor Zhou looked businesslike, but his expression changed so quickly that even Lu Feng standing aside was amazed. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1093. Latest website. He Zheng was rejected and couldn't say a word. He stood there with his face turning purple, and he turned around and left after muttering for a while. "Don't be late for tomorrow's meeting," Mayor Zhou told Lu Feng, turned around and got into the car. Vice Mayor Lu watched the car getting further and further away, then turned around and said to Lu Feng, "Don't offend me as much as possible. If I really have to wear small shoes for you, you won't feel well. Don't be late for the meeting tomorrow. Jiafeng will definitely be benefited by that time." Yes, after they went back to hold a meeting to make a decision, Jiafeng has truly become a leading domestic semiconductor company. "I understand. I don't want to get too close to the city. The main reason is that I don't want to cause trouble. Once we get close, we have dinners every now and then." Lu Feng knows their way too well, and they chatted all day long at the dinner table. "I know so and so, I can just make a phone call and ask you to come. I went to introduce you to a lot of useless people, and then I just performed a show of drinking 3 drinks in one go. It's better to leave a bad impression, and there will be less trouble in the future. The most important thing is that neither Jiafeng nor Lu Feng can give them what they need now. Then I'll go back first." Vice Mayor Lu said hello, got in the car and left. The outside world's discussion about Jiafeng has never stopped. Especially today, as Motorola's domestic branch officially announced that it will sue Jiafeng Group in China, and other domestic and foreign companies are also preparing to join forces to appeal, domestic public opinion was once again in an uproar. The whole day's itinerary was quite intensive. Lu Feng moved his body, looked at the people in Liukan beside him and said, "Just go about your business. There shouldn't be any big problem." Zhu Lidong walked over and said, "Mr. Lu, there is a situation. There was news from the United States just now. Shi Watanabe serves as the overseas head of the Motorola Group headquarters. I heard that in an interview, he said that he would use all his strength to target us and kill him. We were transferred from Fuzhou just for this matter, and some overseas banks have adjusted our credit to the lowest level this morning, including many banks in Xiangjiang." "Just adjust it? We don't take loans from overseas. Even if we need to purchase photolithography machines from abroad in the future, we can do it through related companies," Lu Feng said indifferently. "As for Watanabe Shi, if this kind of thing is reused, it can be regarded as the people over there are blind, they are all busy with their own things." In the evening, as the sun set, Lu Feng took the car and walked home, silently pondering the current situation. In addition to the support of the state, Jiafeng must achieve greater autonomy. The most important thing is the chip issue. If you want to mass-produce mobile phones next year, communication chips must be mass-produced this year, otherwise it will have to be postponed. With Jiafeng's current situation, overseas industry chains cannot even think about it. Although there are fewer internal chips in mobile phones now, there is only a simple processor, and most of them are based on integrated circuit motherboards. However, in terms of signal compilation, operating procedures, and circuit management, a simple processor is still needed. It cannot even be said that a processor is an integrated circuit. Today's mobile phones are just a circuit board plus signal reception and compilation, plus a battery and a speaker. Even if it is such a simple thing in the eyes of later generations, it is still high-tech. Among them, 2G signal compilation, reception, and processing are a series of processors is the stumbling block. The mobile phone will not be available online next year. Lu Feng rubbed his face slightly worriedly. If he really waited for Jiafeng to have such ability, he would have to wait another 2 or 3 years. Lu Feng knew very well that even if he got back the lithography machine, the chip circuit design would be useless. In the dust workshop, various tests and a set of procedures will take 2 or 3 years. After these things are produced, the main application scenarios are computers and mobile phones after 2000. The processors and storage on mobile phones now are too simple. The car stopped at the door of the house. Duo sat at the door in a daze, holding someone's dog in his arms. When he saw Lu Feng coming back, he glanced at him without saying a word. Lu Feng got out of the car and asked, "What's wrong? Are you unhappy?" It's just boring, she sighed as she spoke. I will be 10 years old after this year, and I will already be an old man with double digits in age. Lu Feng saw her looking like a young man trying to express his sorrow, and walked straight back home. Zhang Xiaoyan packed some food back from the hotel. When she saw Lu Feng coming back, she stood up from the sofa and said, "Now that we're back, let's eat." I read in the newspaper this afternoon that many companies are going to sue Jiafeng. Just sue. There are too many lawsuits, Lu Feng shouted towards the door. Duo, it's time to eat. There is too much news from the outside world, and it is too complicated. Lu Feng cannot handle it, nor does he want to handle it. He is not willing to appear in public now. Based on his understanding of some Chinese people, if he steps forward, in the next 10 years, even in the long run, you will become the target of abuse. Sometimes he prefers to be a giant drowning in the water, which is one of the reasons why he voluntarily quit management. Early the next morning, there was a meeting at the municipal government. He Zheng did not attend this time. I heard that the deputy team leader reported last night. Before the meeting, Vice Mayor Lu even gossiped with Lu Feng. Let's look at the meaning here. Lu Feng wasn't very interested in these things. The minds of these people were much more sensitive than his. A word, an action, or an inquiry might contain many layers of meaning. In comparison, the business world seemed much simpler. Minister Niu is very satisfied with the development of Jiafeng. He first affirmed this development method at the meeting. However, he also believes that it will definitely not work to just spend money to invite foreigners to develop industries. After he returns, he will open a discussion with other departments. We will strive to allow some universities to offer courses in this area and allow enterprises to connect with universities. As soon as this type of major becomes popular, many students will rush into this industry one after another, striving to increase exchanges in semiconductor learning between schools, between companies, and at higher levels. At the same time, Jiafeng Group's leading position in the semiconductor industry will be determined, certain tax exemptions will be provided, and R/U0026D subsidies will be provided. In the future, the cooperation between Jiafeng and the Chinese Academy of Sciences will be promoted. Jiafeng will also be encouraged to establish more R/U0026D centers in the country. These R/U0026D centers will be completely free, with some expenses paid by the local government, some subsidies from the Science and Technology Commission, and some further subsidies from special funds. We also hope that Jiafeng Group can take the lead and actively promote the industrial chain. After mass production is achieved, it is best to distribute the wafer, corrosion, packaging and testing, and other links to various enterprises to form a complete domestic chain. Industrial chain. When it was Lu Feng's turn to speak, he talked about the current international environment. If Jiafeng's chips want to be mass-produced, it will take 5 years at the earliest. This is when the international blockade is not serious. If the blockade is serious, even photolithography you can't even buy a machine, and you won't be able to produce it in your next life. Minister Niu looked quite helpless and just kept saying that we should overcome it together. After the meeting dispersed, everyone went to the restaurant. Lu Feng stood outside smoking. Vice Mayor Lu came over and asked for one. He took 2 puffs and said with emotion, "It's not easy for you too. Nothing is difficult. I chose it by myself. If I had just laid back and made money, I would have been extremely rich by now." Lu Feng smoked the pipe. "You are already extremely rich. By the way, have you calculated how many assets you have?" Deputy Mayor Lu suddenly asked curiously. "The sun eclipses the 5 grains, and the night sleeps 7 feet. It's meaningless to calculate." I said I have no feeling for money at all. "Do you believe it?" Lu Feng turned his head and looked at him and asked rather wickedly. He smiled and took a puff of cigarette without saying anything. For Deputy Mayor Lu, this was definitely a sarcastic statement. he still had to think about it in his life. He had never felt like what Lu Feng said. To be honest, I don't think you can succeed in semiconductors, Vice Mayor Lu said to Lu Feng. Now the economy is the main focus. Generally speaking, the large manufacturing industry is popular, and with the suppression from the outside, it is difficult to Yeah, there's a wolf in front of me and a tiger behind me. I'm in a dilemma now. I'm so damn tired to speak my mind. Lu Feng smoked a cigarette and smashed his mouth, frowning, and said, I'm holding my breath, I'm really tired. Between Americans and Europeans, I'm like a monkey, but I'm going to get better, it won't take long. Vice Mayor Lu raised his eyelids and was stunned when he saw Lu Feng's firm gaze. If he were an ordinary citizen with less exposure to information, he might firmly believe it, but Lu Feng knew as much about the current situation as he did. Still believe in the future. This surprised him a little. The more he learned, the less he dared to say what the future would be like. There were too many variables. Hope so. Is the case against Motorola being fought here? Lu Feng asked casually. Don't worry about this. You don't need to worry so much. Just go in and eat. Vice Mayor Lu threw the cigarette on the ground, grabbed Lu Feng and walked towards the restaurant. In the afternoon, the first infringement case filed by a foreign company against a domestic company was accepted by the Shenzhen court. News from home and abroad immediately spread the word, as if law enforcement was to be enforced under the camera. At the same time, Motorola, together with other manufacturers, began to attack the mobile phone business that GFN Group had not yet produced. There were rumors that GFN Group's mobile phones had major problems in the test environment, and the radiation exceeded the standard by thousands of times. For a few days, Lu Feng stayed at home, bought a computer for Duo, and played with her at home. The little guy entered the age of growth and grew 1 centimeter taller in a month. Dad, the newspaper is scolding you again, saying that you didn't say anything about having a son. Duo took the newspaper and showed it to Lu Feng. Lu Feng glanced at it lazily, threw the newspaper aside and said, then the son I wish him to have is all nonsense. You should practice the piano later, otherwise your mother will yell at you again when she comes back. Dad, why do you think these people are scolding you? Duo looked quite annoyed while sitting on the sofa. Lu Feng turned his head and glanced at her. It was obvious that she was also affected. She used to always like to talk about what my father did in school. After school started, it seemed that she would not mention it again. Child, business is a kind of resource plunder. Why did ancient businesses suppress business and favor agriculture? Because ancient business was not creative or service-oriented, only predatory and monopolistic. When business only had the latter two, then the competition is cruel, and business competition only involves a few things. The low-end ones include fighting, stealing, spreading rumors, and price wars. The high-end ones include differentiated competition, service or product improvement, group segmentation and targeted services, and the higher-end ones include investing in shares. Control, acquire Shuezhang, suppress culture, or make rules, Lu Feng said to her with a smile. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1094. Latest website. A few days passed by in a blink of an eye. Compared with the top executives of GFN Group who were facing the pressure of public opinion at the social level, Lu Feng seemed to be more relaxed and at ease. GFN Group is only besieged in the overseas markets of a few surrounding countries. Many domestic Motorola companies have begun to aggressively attack mobile phones, trying to kill GFN's unborn mobile phones in their infancy. Apart from occasionally communicating with senior management, Lu Feng basically focused on the photolithography machine the rest of the time. As GFN's domestic sales were not greatly affected, many shareholders finally paid attention to it. In the stomach. John called Lu Feng and said on the phone that GFN's development has stabilized. After discussion, they felt that the price of $3.5 billion to invest in GFN was too high. They hoped that the follow-up funds would be used, and the cooperation would become $2 billion to acquire 35% of the equity. In addition, GFN Group's current capital situation has improved a lot. As long as it does not blindly expand, there is a large amount of money lying in the company's accounts. Now that GFN Group has been established for many years, it still does not pay dividends to shareholders. It hopes to pay a dividend at the end of this year. Lu Feng directly refused this matter and said on the phone that GFN would also face international risks and needed funds to deal with unknown risks. Lu Feng knew very well what the other party was thinking. Now it was just a test. On the phone, Lu Feng asked him to help keep an eye on the lithography machine, but he didn't say the rest. A few months passed by in a blink of an eye, and it was the Mid-Autumn Festival. Lu Feng's parents called and asked if he was coming back. Lu Feng just sent some money to his family and comforted his elders on the phone, but there was no other news. During this period, he had several phone calls with Zhang Fengxia. Lu Feng comforted her and reassured her that everything here was nothing to worry about. Although Zhang Fengxia repeatedly said that she was rich, Lu Feng still transferred $500,000 through the bank card account number she left in Huashat. Domestic senior management has a strong desire to make semiconductors a big business, but the reality is more sobering. There is no market at all. The private economy does not need chips like this yet. As for selling to foreign countries, no matter how cheap it is, no one will buy it. There is no other way than using money to extend the life of semiconductors. Lu Feng talked to Minister Niu several times on the phone. Lu Feng understood his feelings very well, but the problem was the market. The outside world was blocked and the country could not operate independently. Even if it was researched, it was quite a kind of research and understanding of the logistics of fighter jets during the Warring States period. With maintenance, this feeling of powerlessness makes people tired. Some things can be done and overcome, but there is no market. What should we do? There is a threshold for this thing, and it cannot be pushed out through sales. Lu Feng knew the feeling of powerlessness. Based on his understanding of semiconductors, domestic semiconductor development was not bad in the 1990s in the previous life. It was just suspended due to market and blockade issues. After all, how long will subsidies last? This road has no end in sight. You know, Lu Feng is not the only company that uses other industries to support semiconductors, and he is definitely not the first. The famous Xiaogang Group was at its peak in the 1990s, with an annual net profit of more than 5 billion. Even if it is like this, Big Mac finally stopped working on the semiconductor project. In any era, there is no shortage of people who dare to go against the current. If there is no change in later generations, it can only be said that those people have all failed. During the Mid-Autumn Festival, the full moon was extraordinarily round. Sitting in a beachside villa, I saw that it was really a bright moon rising over the sea. At this time of my life, Zhang Xiaoyan followed the custom of her hometown and set up a table outside, taking moon cakes, fruits, and yellow watches. Begin offering sacrifices to the moon god. Lu Feng moved a small horse stall and sat at the door looking at the bright moon. There was a slight breeze in the air. It was a pleasant season in the south now. Dad, the moon is so round. Duo pointed at the moon. Yeah, it's so round, just like it was 1,000 years ago and 1,000 years later, Lu Feng said with emotion. As long as you reach 15, it will always be so round. Zhang Xiaoyan turned around and glanced at him when she heard this, and said, "It's such a big holiday, why are there so many emotions? Do you still need to recite a poem? I just suddenly felt a little emotional. The moon used to be like this. Now that I'm here, the moon is still like this. Then isn't my coming here in vain?" Lu Feng said in a rather depressed mood. "What do you want to do?" Zhang Xiaoyan said to Duo, somewhat dumbfounded. "Watch your dad, be careful he blows up the moon tomorrow. Now that I'm here, I can't come in vain." Even a speck of dust blown by the wind in the long river of history should bring about a little change, Lu Feng muttered and hugged Duo Duo to him. Said, I have decided to let PHS withdraw from this stage. PHS, Duo Duo asked curiously, what? A mobile phone that is used too much. Remember, your dad is a great man. If many years later, this world is no different from the original world, it means that your dad also failed to swim against the current. Lu Feng he patted her back and said, go and eat mooncakes. Duo Duo brought a stuffed mooncake with flowers and words printed on it. The stuffing inside was made of 5 kernels, but there were long red and green threads. It was something that later generations would look down upon, but it is now ordinary. High-end goods from other people. During this period of time, Lu Feng has been urging the R/U0026D department to put DVD on the market as soon as possible and to show the board of directors new growth points before the year. At the same time, it further confirmed the status of mobile phones as Jiafeng's core industry in the future. It is required to launch the first mobile phone early next year. Previously, Liukin said that it would be launched in the middle of next year based on the supply of overseas parts. Now that Jiafeng cannot buy anything from overseas, it will naturally be put on hold indefinitely. Early the next morning, after breakfast, Lu Feng called Zhu Lidong directly and asked him to come to his home for a meeting today. Since he no longer held any actual management position, calling him to his home to discuss things was a compromise. Before 9 o'clock, Duo Duo was sent to school, Zhang Xiaoyan went to the factory, and cars arrived one after another at the door of the villa. Zhu Lidong, Wei Yandan, and everyone from Liukin all arrived. More than a dozen people made the villa seem crowded. Lu Feng was wearing big pants and slippers. He looked at them with a smile on his face. What is corporate control? This is it. Have you all had breakfast? There are fried dough sticks, soy milk and so on in the kitchen. If you haven't eaten yet, just take a quick bite. First, I wish you all a happy Mid-Autumn festival. Sit wherever you want and treat it as your own home. Lu Feng sat on the sofa, holding a cigarette in his hand. He said casually, I called everyone here early in the morning, just to have a chat and have a seat. Everyone present knew that the so-called casual chat was just the next move of the group. In the past few months, he had basically been semi-retired. The senior management did not understand why he gave up management rights in the first place, even if it was Zhu Lidong. I've had several private conversations with each other, but I can't explain why. In fact, the reason why I offered it to Schroeder Group was on the one hand, and on the other hand, I wanted to test whether I could control the management. If the management immediately switched sides as soon as I quit, Lu Feng would definitely cash out the equity without hesitation. Go too far and start over again. It can also be regarded as a kind of test. After everyone had eaten and drank, they all sat down. Lu Feng looked at them and said, I called you here just to talk about the company's development. What do you have to say? Mr. Lu, the R/U0026D company issued a scientific research pioneer medal last month. At the same time, this year's subsidies have come down. The city attaches great importance to technological breakthroughs in semiconductors and has given the Science and Technology Progress Award. The Science and Technology Committee said that it will lead us to cooperate with other domestic companies. To cooperate with the 909 project, I have been running around in the past few months to prepare to establish several R/U0026D centers and cooperate with several science and technology universities to recruit talents. Liukin said. It's good. Standardized development. Semiconductors are on track. Don't worry about when they can be produced. Anyway, we have the technology. I have had several phone calls with Minister Niu recently. The most fundamental note is the market problem. Even if it is produced, no one is using it. Lu Feng looked at the crowd and said, you can't put a chip on the 28th pole, right? Zhu Lidong thought for a while and said, this is indeed a problem. If it cannot be realized in the market, then this investment will be a bottomless pit that can never be repaid. In the past, we could rely on overseas markets. Semi-finished products like wafers could be manufactured for overseas companies, but that is no longer possible now, Wei Yandan said. In fact, many chip companies started out as wafer foundries and gradually upgraded. Lu Feng thought the same way at the beginning, but he didn't expect the overseas response to be so big. Everyone, look at me and I look at you. With such a large investment in semiconductors, if it cannot make a profit in the short term, there is no way to explain this to the board of directors. This is not something that ordinary people can afford, and it may even cause Jiafeng to go bankrupt. Zhu Lidong knows Lu Feng relatively well. If this road really has no way out, he will not be so calm. However, the problem of no market cannot be easily solved. Now he is afraid that this man will do something crazy again. Seeing that everyone was silent, Lu Feng took a long puff of cigarette, put the cigarette butt in the ashtray, and said, "Mobile phones must be produced, and chips must be produced and sold. If there is no market, then create a market. If history has destined us to face this kind of difficulty, so let's change history and launch mobile phones on the market early next year." There is nothing, but the mobile phone is scheduled to be launched early next year? Zhu Lidong said hurriedly, "I heard Mr. Lu say that 2G is about signal compilation and so on. The integrated circuit has not been completed yet. We cannot produce it now, and there is none in China." "Not in China? Did you say that?" "There is in China," Lu Feng said to the crowd. "We will get the mobile phone in 1996, and we will realize the prosperity of the domestic chip market in 2000. We will rely on our mobile phones to promote domestic chips, storage, and processing. The market for appliances is booming." Although Wei Yandan and Du Guoying didn't understand much, they were greatly shocked at this moment. Liukan frowned and said, "In a few years, even if the gods come, it is impossible to develop so fast. Mr. Lu, even if our mobile phones sell well, we will not promote the domestic market for processors, storage, and chips." Zhu Lidong felt that he was wrong. This thing is not produced by anyone who wants to produce it. The threshold is too high. Don't worry, as long as there is money to be made, copycats will explode, Lu Feng said to himself. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1095. Latest website. Everyone at the scene had already sensed that the person in front of them couldn't help but want to start doing it. It looked like it was not that simple this time. If there is no market, create a market? How much will it cost? Besides, this market is not created. Zhu Lidong tried to explain to Lu Feng what a market is, a complete market, from the production end to all kinds of from supporting enterprises to the consumer market. The complexity is even more complicated than the industrial chain. We don't need to pay, let the country pay. Our country advocates 3 links: water, electricity, and roads. Since last year, many provinces have started to open expressways, such as Shaanxi's Taizhou Expressway. I heard that it will be open to traffic next year. I think the 3 links are a more traditional development route. Let's speed it up and add a communication link to realize the 4 links, Lu Feng said to the crowd. Nowadays, the installation of landline phones has accelerated, and the number of phone booths in cities and public phones in canteens is gradually increasing. Zhu Lidong reminded, these are already very convenient, and if you want to achieve signal coverage with mobile phones, you will have to invest a lot money for infrastructure development. There seem to be only hundreds of base stations in the city now, and they are also expensive. They are all imported. We don't have 2G technology. The domestic manufacturer of switches seems to be a small company called Huawei. Various communication standards. It's a mess. Liu Ken also technically rejected Lu Feng's idea. Lu Feng knew that Huawei was developing its own switches and had achieved results. As for signal towers, just import them. As long as there are signals in the city and efficient phone calls can be realized, the market will be huge. Never mind that, how do we build a market? It is impossible for us as a company to promote large-scale investment in communications infrastructure by the country, but we can cooperate with some wealthy provinces, use some first-tier cities as experimental sites, and then cooperate with local post and telecommunications offices, build some signal towers to achieve signal coverage in urban areas, and then sell mobile phones. A company selling mobile phones will never create a chip market. After our mobile phones gain a certain market position, we will open up our technology and decentralize all our products to small and medium-sized enterprises, allowing others to pirate us crazily. As long as a large number of small and medium-sized enterprises, if manufacturers can produce screens and motherboards, then the market will be fully competitive. Under fierce market competition, low prices will definitely be born. Low prices mean that the price of mobile phones will plummet. Ordinary people can also afford mobile phones. When the country sees the progress of mobile communications, the market is not big, only tens of millions of users, then the national communication infrastructure will be launched. At that time, everything will develop in a healthy way and we will be able to sell chips. Everyone present was dumbfounded when they heard this plan. They spared such a big deal just to sell a chip? Lu is always obsessed with chips. Mr. Lu, we actually make quite a lot of money selling mobile phones. There is no need to do the following steps, Zhu Lidong reminded. What do you know? Of course it's good to make monopoly profits. We don't want to make immediate money. We have to find ways to put the market in order. Only when the country is good and the country is good can the market be good. It is not advisable to fish for nothing. There are still 5 months until the new year. This is what I have been doing for the past 5 months, Lu Feng said solemnly. 5 months. Everyone instantly felt a lot of pressure, and many people didn't know why he did this. He was completely out of self-interest and dedicated to others, just for the small and medium-sized enterprises that pirated his own products. Mr. Lu, there is another problem, that is, people in the province may not necessarily cooperate with us. This matter is too huge and requires the integration of many parties. Wei Yandan put forward an opinion, just integrating partners, the province will not be able to cooperate with us. Post office, it will take more than 5 months. It's okay, I'll take care of this problem. Guangzhou won't be happy with it, but other places will be happy with it. Don't worry, I know the person, Lu Feng said firmly. Du Guoying was sitting aside and was shocked by the momentum of Mr. Lu's big wave. There were people not only in the capital, but also overseas, and in various provinces. He had connections all over the world. His hands and eyes were all over the sky. Mr. Lu's connections are incredible. Such a guarantee must be from a close friend. Du Guoying couldn't help but sigh. Shit. Forget it. Zhu Lidong didn't want to say any more, and secretly felt a cold sweat for Huang Yuwei. He might not know how to torment him this time. When everyone sees that they are determined to do something, they will definitely not be able to stop it. Now it is true that Lu Feng's power can be restricted through the board of directors. The question is, who dares? Several people who have followed Lu Feng for many years know in their hearts that as long as they don't let him do it, it won't take long for Lu Feng to start another company, and they are afraid that Jia Feng will be beaten first. What about the core motherboard of the mobile phone? There are also 2G signal receivers and so on. Liu Ken asked the key question. These are imported from overseas, and we can't even buy them overseas now. You can't buy it in foreign countries, why can't you buy it in China? Leave it to me, Mr. Zhu. This time you come with me. Let's get some fake passports and go to the other side. They have strong production capacity there and they don't sell them. Mainland China, we will become Thais. We happen to have connections in Thailand, so this is no problem. Lu Feng seemed to have thought of everything. Zhu Lidong felt that his face was wrinkled, and it was still the same thing, so he hurriedly said, Mr. Lu, I have appeared in the media a lot in the past few years. Maybe people over there know me. It's okay. Let's dress up and put on makeup. Besides, the photos you submitted were all staged. I took a look at them a few days ago. Good guy, your mother may not even recognize them when she sees them, Lu Feng teased. Road. Everyone laughed. This matter was finalized by Lu Feng. Wei Yandan was responsible for contacting the mainland. First, contact the province. It would be best to negotiate a good cooperation, set up a special project team, and have a dedicated person to connect the project team in the future. Will become a separate subsidiary company. At the same time, it is necessary to conduct research on the mobile phone market, including research on signal requirements, call quality, price, and other aspects. It is also necessary to contact supporting companies and purchase. Everyone had a meal at the hotel at noon. When they came back in the afternoon, Lu Feng took a nap. The first thing he did when he woke up was to call the Thai authorities. He originally wanted to call Maha directly, but he was afraid that they would have forgotten it. For me, as for contacting Sarami, it is not appropriate to call directly for this matter. After all, she is currently in a heated fight with Maha. Lu Feng thought for a moment and decided to call Sarami first and chatted for a while. After the call was connected, the person in charge of answering the phone picked up the phone. After several transfers, Sarami finally picked up the phone. Mr. Lu, I didn't expect to receive your call again. I'm so happy. Sarami's voice came from the other end of the phone, but she spoke in Thai with a translator next to her, which made her look quite formal. I've always remembered you. How are you? Lu Feng asked. Everything is fine, life is much better now. Sarami said on the phone. Material life is absolutely no problem. As for spiritual life, the two of them have a tacit understanding and do not mention it. After chatting on the phone for half an hour, Sarami invited Lu Feng to come over as a guest when he was free. She still missed Lu Feng very much. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng called Zilun again. Sawadika. Came the muttered voice on the phone. Director Zilun, it's me, Lu Feng, do you remember? Lu Feng asked. Zilun, who was half lying on the boss's chair in the office, instantly sat up straight and said with some joy, Mr. Lu? Is this Mr. Lu from GFN Group? Yes, it's me, old friend, long time no see, Lu Feng said politely. I didn't expect you to still remember me. I thought we would never have contact from now on. Yes, long time no see. How are you? I saw some news saying that you are wanted internationally. If you think this world if it's not safe, come to me and I can protect you, Zalun said excitedly. Lu Feng said with some embarrassment, I'm safe. I just called Sarami and I thought of you. Time flies so fast. It's been more than a year in the blink of an eye. And a lot of things happened. Lu Feng was talking nonsense, while Zilun kept expressing his longing, and also said that he had found his other half and was living a very happy life now. When Lu Feng heard the news, his first reaction was not relief, but an involuntary feeling, this is a scumbag. Congratulations. Firstly, I want to catch up with old times. Secondly, I have something to do. It's hard for me to move around the world now, so I need a few Thai passports. Is it convenient for you? Lu Feng asked. This matter the other party slapped his mouth, which seemed to be difficult to handle. When Lu Feng heard this, he continued, by the way, when I was chatting with Sarami just now, I mentioned you. Looking back on the situation at that time, we have a special fate. That's that. Passports don't matter. How many people are there? Lu Feng explained the general situation, then hung up the phone. The passport matter was arranged, and then he called Zhang Ruhing. "Hello, I'm Zhang Ruhing, who are you?" A slightly magnetic voice came from the other end of the phone. "Mr. Zhang, it's me, Lu Feng from GFN Group," Lu Feng said into the phone. "Mr. Lu, after we left Paris, a few months passed in a blink of an eye. Is there good news for you if you call me this time?" Mr. Zhang's voice sounded excited. "Yes, I have talked a lot with the leaders of the Science and Technology Commission in the past few days. How can I handle the small matter you entrust me with? It must be a big event. I didn't even look for it in the city or the province. Go to the capital and look for them. They have officially issued a message. You are absolutely welcome to come, and there are various subsidies so that you can come back with peace of mind." Lu Feng reported the good news. "With the guarantee from a leader at this level, I feel more confident. I will arrange to go back this morning. It's not too early. I still have something to do. You have to help me." Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1096. Latest website. When Mr. Zhang heard that he needed help with something, he asked, "What's the matter?" "Just ask if I can. Actually, it's not a big deal for you. We originally planned to produce mobile phones next year, import some core components from overseas, and make the rest ourselves. You are also aware of the overseas situation we are facing now, but mobile phones cannot without production. The mainland needs this market," Lu Feng said worriedly. "What do you mean? I'll help you purchase a batch of core components. If you do it, the risk is too great. Now the outside is watching us closely. I decided to go out and purchase it myself. You can help lead the way. As for identity, you don't have to worry. When the time comes, we will take the Thai passport and pretend to be Thai," Lu Feng said very naturally. "Huh? Thai?" Mr. Zhang felt a little weird and said, "This is not easy to disguise, right? If it doesn't work, you can just hire a few Thais to come forward. I'm worried about such a big deal. Besides, you can still rest assured about my acting skills," Lu Feng said quite confidently. Acting skills. Mr. Zhang heard that this matter was not reliable, but Lu Feng had already brought it up, so he could only agree and said, "As long as it is beneficial to the country, I am willing to do it." "Where do you plan to start from?" "Purchase. TSMC. When?" "It's best to leave within a week. The big order we're talking about is 1 million goods. If all the goods are delivered the year after next, we can settle the payment in US dollars." Mr. Zhang was also surprised when he heard that the volume of goods amounted to millions. With the current market in mainland China, he was afraid that after all the goods had been delivered, he would be able to sell them for more than 10 years. He hurriedly reminded, "Mr. Lu, communication technology will be in the next few years. There will be explosive breakthroughs, and 3G technology is already running in the laboratory. If everything goes well, it will be commercially available in 5 or 6 years at most. If you stock up on so many 2G parts, it will probably be a pile of waste. Don't worry, I know how much I will buy. The market is not good now, but I am still confident that I can sell 1 million mobile phones in a few years," Lu Feng said with certainty. Although Mr. Zhang doesn't know where his confidence lies, a businessman doesn't need a technician to explain these simple truths. "Okay, then I won't say more. It's easy to introduce this kind of thing. They also need sales. With such a large number of customers, I believe they will be happier than us. When the time comes, give me the information about the relevant companies." "That's good." The two discussed on the phone for a long time, and Lu Feng hung up. So far, everything has gone very smoothly. With the contacts Lu Feng has accumulated in the past few years, this matter is relatively easy. In the eyes of the outside world, GFN Group has gone downhill amidst the denunciation and denunciation. Many people have found some data. Sales of small home appliances under GFN Group have declined. Some even say in a triumphant tone that GFN Group's sales of small home appliances have declined. Radio sales plummeted 90%. No one has calculated how many people yearned to go abroad in the 1990s. They just know that no matter city people or villagers, as long as they go abroad, they are the most promising people in their families. No matter which country they go to, some people cannot go abroad. If you go there, you may not be able to look like a person outside. When you come back, you will make a living by telling people how the moon is round outside. The key is that you can still be successful. Lu Feng sometimes looks at those newspapers and magazines, and feels that this is really an era where monsters are rampant. A group of people desperately want to make domestic products, and they are always abusing domestic products. Domestic products are cheap, fakes are rampant, and even at one point, it got to the point where everything was fake. This is destined to be an era of great controversy. After people have enough food and clothing, and see the bigger world outside, their mentality is crazy between being angry and lamenting their misfortune. In 3 days, a company called Nandi Electronic Technology Co. Limited was established. The chairman's name was Kuntai and there were 8 management staff. At home, Lu Feng simply packed his things. Zhu Lidong and Liuqin stood aside and wanted to help, but they didn't know how to start. Everything has been done. I have booked a flight ticket for the day after tomorrow. I have to go to the city tomorrow to tell you that the fewer people on this trip, the better. Too many people can cause trouble. As for you two, you have experienced this kind of battle. Mr. Lu he knows the technology, and Mr. Zhu will be responsible for negotiating the price. We can just go there. Lu Feng threw a shirt into the suitcase. Let's go to Bangkok first. When we get there, we will have a brand new passport. My name is Kuntai, and I also have 2 names, one is Kumba and the other is Kunya. We are a family business. The company is called Nandi Electronics. It has just transformed. I used to sell rubber pillows. In order to prevent others from finding out that I don't know Thai, I can speak Mandarin. We are from the Aka ethnic group in Thailand, so we don't speak Thai. This ethnic group has a small number of people. I don't believe they can find people who can. People who speak poorly, so we can make nonsense, Lu Feng said very naturally. Nonsense? Why are you making such nonsense? Zhu Lidong suddenly felt that this trip might not be that easy. Gilagulu, Gilagerbal, add our local accent, just say it with some meaning, Lu Feng ordered. Zhu Lidong and Liuqin looked at each other. Although this matter sounded so unreliable, they knew that Lu Feng had done a lot in this regard, so they could only nod and agree. After returning from this trip, we will immediately adjust the production line. As soon as the core parts arrive, we will put it into production immediately. The year-end board of directors meeting will be held in more than 2 months. I hope you can give a share to the board of directors. Satisfactory answer. Lu Feng sat down and said to Zhu Lidong, to make mobile phones and communications and compete with companies like Motorola, we need to spend funds to compete. Next year, we need to increase the marketing budget, research and development. You have to increase the size of your bank account. What are you doing with so much money in the bank? Right. Zhu Lidong looked happy when he heard this. It was his turn. With a generous budget, it would be different. Go back and tidy up, and hand over the tasks that need to be handed over. It will probably take a week, Lu Feng ordered. After the 2 left, Lu Feng threw the suitcase aside. In the evening, Zhang Xiaoyan called back and said that she had a dinner party that evening, so she would bring Duo to eat together and let Lu Feng make do with it. Zhang Xiaoyan's villa has been delivered and all decorations have been completed. Now they live together like this. They don't know what the relationship is. They don't know how to make a choice, so they do nothing and maintain the status quo. The next day, at 10 o'clock in the morning, Lu Feng drove to the municipal government, went upstairs and knocked on the door of Deputy Mayor Liu's office. The other party looked up and was stunned when he saw him, and asked, "What's the matter, Mr. Liu? Just call me. Well, there's no need to go there in person. The main reason is that I'm afraid that I can't explain this matter clearly on the phone. I have to go out for business development needs recently." Lu Feng walked in and said, "My passport is still frozen. Let me handle this matter." "Oh, what's this? Why are you going out? It's not very safe outside. Besides, I'm not responsible for the customs." Deputy Mayor Lu said in a difficult manner, "It's better not to go out." "I can't do it without going out." "Who can do this?" Lu Feng asked. "You tell Mayor Zhou, and you have to explain what you are going out for. You can't run away." Deputy Mayor Lu said with a slight joke. "Where can I run? Head to a foreign prison? Is he in the office now?" "Here you are, I'll take you there." Vice Mayor Lu took Lu Feng to the door of the office, knocked on the door and whispered, "I won't go in." "Please come in," a deep voice came from the room. Lu Feng opened the door and walked in. He saw Mayor Zhou sitting there, wearing glasses as if he was approving something. He glanced at him sideways and asked, "What's the matter with Mr. Liu?" "As for me, I'm planning to go on a trip recently because of company development." "Isn't my passport frozen? Can you unlock it?" Lu Feng walked to the table and asked. Mayor Zhou closed the folder in front of him, raised his head and looked at Lu Feng and said, "Is this your home? Unlock it when you say it. Is the court opened by your family? Just stay in the country. I'm not going out for a walk, it's for the development of the enterprise. This matter is quite involved, so I hope I can handle it specially. Besides, I just want to run away." "Where are I going to run now?" Lu Feng looked at him as if it was all business. He looked annoyed and said, "Are you trying to make fun of me? When Minister Niu came here before, he didn't say anything nice about you. Why are you waiting here for me? What are you talking about? What kind of person am I? But this is really not possible. Your matter is more complicated. I suggest you go to the Foreign Affairs Department to inquire. Get the certificate issued, stamp it, and everything will be fine." "I will definitely do it for you." Mayor Zhou looked at Lu Feng and said. The damn Apple 20 was out at that time. "Let me tell you, this matter will determine the development of the domestic communications industry in the next few years. Are you sure you want to stop me here?" Lu Feng looked sulky and said in a deep voice, "Okay, I'll call Minister Niu now. The Science and Technology Committee doesn't care about this, let's just beat him." Mayor Zhou looked indifferent. How could he be upset under his own hands? Still can't control you? Lu Feng didn't waste any more nonsense. He picked up the phone and called the Science and Technology Commission. On the phone, he explained the necessity of this trip. On the other end, he heard that Lu Feng was cooperating with powerful provinces to sell mobile phones and promote the domestic communications industry. After all, I suddenly felt that this plan was feasible. The phone was on speakerphone, and Minister Niu said on the phone, "This is indeed a good thing, and it is very enforceable, but there is nothing we can do in the city." "Then what should we do?" Lu Feng asked helplessly. "We can only contact the province." "Let me call the province." No need." When Mayor Zhou heard that he was about to call the province, he hurriedly smiled and said, "Minister Niu, I am just joking with him, and I also want to make sure that the work is in place." "Well, I will talk to the province, say hello and prepare a case. He will definitely be able to leave tomorrow, the phone call will be quick." Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1097. Latest website. Although the Science and Technology Committee cannot directly command the city, it does have a great say in the development of science and technology, the selection of sites for the introduction of some major foreign investment, and the implementation of large-scale projects. These things are extremely important for any place. Not to mention the city, even the province did not dare to neglect it. Mayor Joe had 10,000 dissatisfactions in his heart, so he had to do it now. After hanging up the phone, Mayor Joe raised his head, glanced at Lu Feng, and said, "Times have really changed. Everything is really economic. There is no need for you to feel unhappy. I have always relied on my ability to get ahead. No matter which city I go to or which mayor I deal with, it is the same. There are many people who are unhappy with me and many who beg us to go. You can't say that you want me to be super capable and to be humble at the same time." Lu Feng stared at him and said, "Have you ever seen a groveling person who has the ability to stand alone? I didn't ask you to grovel, I just asked you to learn to respect others." He stared at Lu Feng and said solemnly. It was obvious that Mayor Joe was unhappy with Lu Feng's character of not taking him seriously. "I respect you very much." Lu Feng knew that there was no point in continuing such a topic. The two of them were left with only emotions. When the conversation between two people was only with emotions, the simplest and most direct way would be to have a fight. After leaving the municipal government, Lu Feng drove to the headquarters. Regarding the mobile phone, he still needed to check it out in person. Everything was arranged. The next morning, while having breakfast, Lu Feng told Zhang Xiaoyan that he was going out for a few days. Zhang Xiaoyan was used to him being away all year round. It was abnormal for him to stay at home with nothing to do in the past few months. Arriving at the airport at 9:30 in the morning, Zhu Lidong and Liuqin had already arrived. The plane took off on time at 10 o'clock. As the plane stabilized, the flight attendant handed him some water. Lu Feng casually chatted about what happened in Mayor Joe's office yesterday. Zhu Lidong and Liuqin have also talked a lot about mobile phones recently. Lu Feng's idea is very good, but it is incredible for a company to promote a country to form a market. If Lu Feng used to play with his tongue licking the tip of a knife, then this time he is dancing on the crater. Once it is unable to promote the formation of the mobile phone market, Jiafeng Group will completely collapse, the chip business will disappear, and all investments will disappear. Will be washed away. Liuqin understands technology, and Zhu Lidong understands market. Both of them are quite worried about this matter. If they are not careful, everything will be lost. Zhu Lidong glanced at Lu Feng beside him, leaned his head slightly to the side, and whispered, "Mr. Lu, yesterday I had a chat with a dealer who sells mobile phones, and the other party also thought that cooperation with wealthy provinces was a good idea. Later, we talked about mobile phone accessories, profits, and the market prospects are very good. The other party made a small suggestion, which is to bundle the chip with the mobile phone, and win or lose in one game. The risk is too great." Lu Feng glanced at him. This was obviously what he wanted to say, and he said, "Some time ago, John from Schroeder Group called me and said that our current funds can be turned over, and they judged the price of $3.5 billion US. It's too high. I don't want to pay the $1.5 billion in the future. I'll forget about it if I don't pay. I also want to get some money back. I want to pay a big dividend to the funds on the company's account. I won't say it anymore. I'll be confused for a while." Zhu Lidong's expression became gloomy when he heard this. He had no idea what was going on among the board of directors. According to what Lu Feng said, it was obvious that Schroeder had started to test things out. Lu Feng closed his eyes and stopped talking. Lu Cheng, who was sitting across the aisle, looked over and asked in a low voice, "What do you mean?" "It means, I don't know whose wife it is, so there's no need to show too much pity, let's just play with it," Zhu Lidong explained in an easy-to-understand manner. "Daughter-in-law? Who is she?" Liuqin's eyes widened. He had never heard such breaking news. "I'm talking about the company, and the company is my little wife. I won't talk anymore, and I'll be stunned." Zhu Lidong leaned back and stopped talking. Zhu Lidong and the others thought Lu Feng was crazy, but they didn't know that the swords of the top management were already flashing. The Schroeder group was definitely under pressure. Their group of people didn't have the courage to fight head-on, but they did have the courage of disgusting people. After a little thought, it became clear that the Schroeder's group was ready to leave. It was only 3 or 4 hours from Shenzhen to Bangkok. As the plane landed at noon, there were already more than a dozen people standing in the VIP aisle. Everyone was wearing suits and ties, but none of them looked friendly, and everyone around them kept a distance from them. As Lu Feng got off the plane and walked out of the aisle, more than a dozen people said in unison, "Welcome, Brother Rich." Liuqin and Zhu Lidong had never seen such a formation before. They looked at Lu Feng with disbelief on his face. "Is Mr. Lu so arrogant here? Quite a kind of pheasant brothers momentum." Lu Feng looked at them. The little bodyguard who followed Lu Feng was now the head of the security company. He had developed very well in such a short time. Lu Feng knew that he could not control this place, so he gave them a lot of money. The degree of freedom is not so much that they are working for Lu Feng, but rather that these people are working entirely for themselves. Coupled with Lu Feng's relationship with Sarami and Zailun, this group of people doesn't have to worry about completely losing control. "Thank you for coming to greet me. I'm just passing by. I haven't seen you for a long time." "How are you doing?" Lu Feng asked with a kind expression. "Everything is going well. Now the security business is developing very well and has reached a considerable scale. It has also opened many bars, massage parlors, and other businesses." Lu Feng listened to their development. "In this land, if the scum dies, there will be others who will take over. It is just a matter of you singing and I will appear. As for other great progress, don't expect it." Lu Feng and his party got into a stretched Rolls-Royce. The interior decoration was very luxurious. Zhu Lidong and Liuqin were considered people who had seen the world, but they were still impressed by the car. "What kind of car is this? Is it so long? It also has a refrigerator and a TV," Liuqin asked in surprise. Zhu Lidong looked at the space in the car, which was like a luxury suite, and guessed, it should be an extended version. "This car is not cheap. None of this is important. Have a good rest and fly north in the afternoon," Lu Feng leaned on his seat and said. The two of them knew that Lu Feng had gone through a lot here, but they didn't expect that he would be so popular here. It looked like he had formed a gang himself, and things like passports could be handled easily. It's enough to see a truth that a capable person can't cover up anywhere. After arriving at the hotel, after a short rest, Zailun treated the guests to dinner. The two of them reminisced about old times. Sarami was originally going to come, but something happened and he didn't come. Over the past year or so, Maha's relationship with Sarami is very good, and Sarami often mentions Lu Feng. In addition, the security company and Guangming Electronics Company can help with a lot of things here. Maha is no stranger to Lu Feng. Among them, the security company played a big role. After Mu Jia's death, the military's white gloves were gone. The security company took over these bad things privately, and Lu Feng was partly responsible for this. Liuqin and Zhu Lidong ate silently without saying a word. What they heard at the dinner table had already shocked the two of them. Shutting up is a skill in many cases. It has nothing to do with me. I don't know much about the matters between the two parties. If you have the chance, I would like to explain it. Lu Feng didn't want to get too involved. Who knows what might involve him tomorrow? You don't have to worry too much. You help Sarami up. If she wants to stay for a long time, she needs to be useful. The security company can help her with a lot of things. She is also willing to use your name to win over her. Just give me a name, and you don't have to worry about anything else. Zilun also saw that Lu Feng was keeping secrets about this, so he took out a few passports from his body, put them on the table and started talking about business, and said, "The passports are here. This Thank you. Didn't you bring your other half here? Lu Feng took it over and looked at it politely. He? Isn't he right in front of you? Huh, Lu Feng raised his head and looked at him. Ha 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 ha, just kidding. Zhelun smiled and said, he is at work. Zhelun didn't dare to offend Lu Feng now. The security company was developing rapidly. Sarami was from a humble background and had little power behind him, so he was willing to rely on Lu Feng's name to win over some people. Lu Feng is now the core of Sarami. If Sarami's position is stable in a few years, Lu Feng will definitely be the person who needs to be fawned over. If it was a play mentality before, then facing Lu Feng now is more like work requires seriousness. The two chatted for a while, and Zhelun left. In the afternoon, Lu Feng bought Aka clothes from the local area, and also bought some cosmetics, and simply packed them according to the skin color of the locals. The main feature of the Aka clothing is tattoos and embroidery. The black base cloth is embroidered with various beautiful patterns. Most men wrap their heads in black cloth and wear some silver jewelry as a match. The three of them changed their clothes and looked completely different. Zhu Lidong put black foundation on his face and looked more than 10 years older. Liukan also looked a little older. Isn't it too weird to wear this kind of clothes in the past? Zhu Lidong looked at his own outfit and couldn't help but said, this is definitely very eye-catching. I'm afraid the locals don't dress like this, right? I don't know if the locals dress like this. Anyway, we say it is to show off our clan. Besides, we are doing business, why do they still care so much? Lu Feng looked at himself in the mirror, and saw that the change was indeed not the same. Xiao glanced at the time and said, let's go. Lu Feng and his party went to the airport, first cancelled the previously booked air tickets, and then purchased the refunded air tickets with their new passports. After 3 o'clock, as the plane was boarding, the ticket inspector looked at Lu Feng and said, Mr. Kuntai, welcome to board the plane. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1098. Latest website. As the plane took off, the flight attendant introduced the customs of the destination. In the introduction, she said that the economy there was developed, the environment was beautiful, and the people were polite. It's hard to praise the people in that place too much now. As long as the economy is good, everything will be good, and everyone has money, they will know how to save face, and know honor and disgrace when they have enough food and clothing, just like the mainlanders a few years later going to Xiangzheng is a principle, and development is the last word. Ben Bei, Mr. Zhang has contacted TSMC before, and they attach great importance to this order. They have been established for less than 10 years, and their main business is OEM, exporting wafers to external parties, undertaking part of the packaging and testing process, and producing their own products. Integrated circuits and chips are at the low end and are not well recognized by overseas markets. Not to mention now, even in 2003, the sales of the chips they produced are still not good. Part of the reason for the poor sales is that Europe and the United States hope that it will always play the role of a junior brother in the industry chain. Desperate, it sold the chips to a place called Huaqiangbei in Shenzhen at extremely low prices through retail and wholesale. There were a large number of small and medium-sized enterprises there, and mainland copycat phones took advantage of the situation to rise. In a tall office building, the phone on Zhang Ruhing's desk rang. He picked up the phone and said, "Who is this?" "Gong Zhang, it's me," the voice of TSMC's boss came from the other end of the phone. "When will your friend arrive?" "They are expected to arrive in 2 hours. It's already a bit late today. Let's arrange a meeting tomorrow. It can be seen that you are very concerned about this matter." Zhang Ruhing was afraid that something would go wrong, so she decided to meet Lu Feng in advance. Just one side. After all, this is our first time selling finished products. Since the other party believes it, we have to do a good job. I have asked someone to set up a reception team, and I will personally receive it when the time comes, Zhang Zongmu said in a particularly solemn manner. Mr. Zhang, will you receive them personally? Most of these friends cannot speak Chinese. If you value them so much, I will receive them well, Zhang Ruhing promised. The most important thing is to develop into a long-term cooperation partner, be able to stably output finished products, and establish a foothold in Southeast Asia first. As long as the products are stable, other companies will see it, Zhang Zongmu expressed his thoughts. Going global has become TSMC's biggest problem now. After the two talked for a few minutes, Zhang Ruhing hung up the phone, looked at the time, went downstairs and took a car straight to the airport. As the plane landed, Liuqin and Zhu Lidong looked out the window excitedly. Zhu Lidong said with emotion, I thought I would not set foot on this land until it came back, but I didn't expect it to come early. You should come here often and hang out more. Now that this place is rich, there are still many models worth learning from the mainland. Lu Feng muttered a few words and stood up and said, watch your words, we are ties now. Liuqin stood up rather teasingly and said, Kilaga, wow wow dika, go away mother hummer daiwa. It's only right that you talk like this, you're a devil, say vadika, Zhu Lidong said from the side. Lu Feng heard the two people talking in a tone of voice and said angrily, Tulu, Tulu, got off the plane. The flight attendant stood aside and looked at the three people with big eyes and small eyes. She always felt that the words of these three people were so familiar and yet so strange. In the VIP reception passage, Lu Feng and the other two people walked out with their suitcases. Mr. Zhang and 4 or 5 people were looking there, completely unrecognized. Lu Feng stepped forward and said, Mr. Zhang, we are here. Zhang Ruhing frowned and looked at Lu Feng for a while. He looked carefully for dozens of seconds before he recognized it. He was a little dumbfounded and said, where did you get this outfit? I almost didn't recognize it. It's the clothes of the Aka tribe. I bought it in Bangkok. Let's talk somewhere else. There are many people here. Lu Feng glanced around and said. Then go to the hotel first and give them your luggage, Mr. Zhang said enthusiastically. I thought you were going to change clothes here, and I bought a few outfits similar to ethnic clothes, but I didn't expect you were all ready. What if the people over there come over as soon as we get off the plane? Wouldn't it be all in vain? Lu Feng said with a smile. After leaving the airport, getting in the car, and on the way back to the hotel, I looked at the viaducts, various high-rise buildings, and various construction units everywhere. At this moment, it is a prosperous scene, the economy is growing rapidly, and there are new changes every day. The famous 101 building has not yet been built, and the rise of this landmark building represents the culmination of the growth here. Mr. Zhang noticed Lu Feng looking at the buildings here and asked, how do you feel? It's thriving, it feels like it's full of vitality and everything is in competition, Lu Feng commented. Ha 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 ha, Mr. Zhang laughed, looked out the window and said with emotion, it's too small, it saves effort and makes a lot of effort. It's like a grass. If you pour some water on it, it will grow. If there is any disturbance, it will be uprooted. Lu Feng leaned on his position and asked, right? Yes, that's why I want to go back to the mainland. The two of them didn't speak anymore, and the carriage fell into silence. Liuqin and Zhu Lidong quietly looked at the busy traffic outside. Liuqin sighed with emotion, it would be great if all the cities in the inland could develop to this level. It will definitely happen, but it will take time, Zhu Lidong said from the side. The size of the inland has developed like this. Mr. Zhang was halfway through speaking when Lu Feng took over. That will be the messenger of peace on earth. I personally predict that 20 years will be enough, Lu Feng predicted casually. 20 years, Zhang Ruhing said in surprise. Yes, because there are talents like me, Lu Feng boasted rather arrogantly, Don't you think it's possible? Then add more than a billion talents like me, it will definitely be enough. Everyone laughed, and Lyokin looked out with longing, hoping that what Mr. Liu said was true. After arriving at the hotel and entering the room, Mr. Zhang closed the door and said, "The company attaches great importance to your order. The chairman has called me several times and I think he will receive you personally. Silicon wafer exports are very good now, but the finished product cannot be sold. If they want to sell it, it can be considered as an opening. The price can be negotiated, but one thing to note is that there is an identity check and they are not allowed to sell to companies or individuals sanctioned by Europe and the United States. There is no problem with our identity. We are registered in Thailand, and we are native Thais. We have our files," Lu Feng said nonchalantly. "That's good. I've prepared a dinner at this hotel. Just go downstairs after a short rest. Also, try not to go out at night if you can. The security here is not particularly good. There may be some gang members, it's best to be careful," Mr. Zhang arranged. "Okay, thank you. I'll try not to go out." After everything was settled, Lu Feng and the others took a brief rest. They arrived at the restaurant at 7 o'clock in the evening. The dinner was quite sumptuous. At the dinner table, Lu Feng said something about Minister Niu. As long as he made arrangements, it would be fine. Return to the mainland immediately, the subsidiary company has been registered, and the funds will be available at any time. After introducing Lyokin to him, Mr. Zhang briefly introduced the situation here. Their current quotation is about $300 for each mobile phone circuit board, a complete set of 2G signal circuits and chips. Internationally, the general price is here. Lu Feng did not agree with this price. Including transportation to Thailand and turnover from Thailand to the factory in the south, the cost was close to $400. When converted into RMB, that is more than 3,000 yuan. In addition to Jiafeng's various, according to Lyokin's rough estimate of the cost, the ex-factory price of the mobile phone is around 6,000 yuan. This does not include cooperation with the province to build various signal towers, base stations, etc., and spread it equally on mobile phones, which is close to the 10,000 yuan mark. You must know that the prices of Motorola and Nokia mobile phones have also been reduced recently, and they are only 7,000 to 8,000 yuan. Is it 7 or 8,000 now? Lu Feng looked at Lyokin in disbelief. A few days before departure, I bought one and it cost 7,500. Zhu Lidong took out his Motorola mobile phone from his pocket. I bought my Nokia a few months ago for less than 10,000 yuan. Lu Feng was quite speechless, but it could be seen that Motorola really wanted to kill Jiafeng in the mobile phone business. As for the price, we can discuss it again. I estimate that more than $200 should be fine. Mr. Zhang pondered. The main thing is that if they sell one pair, they need to pay Fuzu the patent fee of dozens of $. The price must be lowered to about $150 so that our products can be competitive. Otherwise, if we buy them back at a high price and produce them, there will be no other way except being beaten on the ground, Lu Feng said in a very serious tone. Determined. There are still some things that have not been said. If he engages in a price war in the mobile phone business and loses money on a large scale, he will face a very passive ending in the board of directors. That is not what Lu Feng wants, especially at this juncture. He must be on the board of directors. Stand firm in the game and shut the Schroeder Group's mouth. As long as you can bring profits and high returns to the company, or a piece of cake that is about to be eaten, then you will occupy a dominant position on the board of directors. No matter how unhappy Schroeder's group is, other directors will support you. $150, maybe we need to talk about it. Mr. Zhang knew that their cost was just $150, so it was not easy for them to sell without making money. After having a full meal and eating clam omelette, everyone returned to the room. As agreed, they would meet with their reception team tomorrow. After a brief exchange, they went to the factory to see the products. After the products were fine, they negotiated the price and signed the order. Before going to bed at night, Lu Feng called Zhu Lidong and Liukan into his room and said to them, "Mr. Lu, tomorrow we will focus on the products. If you have anything to say, tell me. The most important thing is to find fault with them. Why, be prepared to lower the price later, Mr. Zhu, please pay more attention to calculating our market costs. Anyway, pay more attention and pay attention to your words. Don't be overheard and act according to the situation." Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1099. Latest website. The next day, at 8 o'clock in the morning, the three of them simply washed up and had breakfast. As agreed, they took a car to the Science and Technology Park. Along the way, Mr. Zhang introduced the Science and Technology Park model. This park is mainly used to incubate emerging industries and reduce all taxes, and provide certain subsidies. The most important thing is that industries are concentrated here and communication between multiple companies is very convenient. These are not problems in the mainland. The model can be copied, but it cannot be copied with outside help. Their achievements today have nothing to do with them. Lu Feng looked at Mr. Zhang and said, "If you give me the external conditions of TSMC, do you believe that I can do better than him?" Mr. Zhang had no choice but to nod in agreement. As the car drove into the Science and Technology Park, a banner was hung at the gate, which read, "Warmly welcome Mr. Kuntai, chairman of Nandi Electronics, and his party to inspect." As the car drove in, Lu Feng coughed and said in a low voice to Zhu Lidong and Zhu Lidong, "We're in the zone." A banner was hung at the door of the company building, and a group of people stood bustlingly. It looked quite grand. The car stopped at the door. Mr. Zhang got out of the car first. The car door next to Lu Feng was opened by the doorman. Applause broke out outside. Lu Feng stepped out of the car, clasped his hands together, looked at everyone with a smile, and said, "Sawadika. Savadika." A man in his 40s came out of the crowd, also clasping his hands together, and said, "Sawadika, I am Liang Bin, the vice president of the group, welcome to your arrival." There was a little girl standing next to me, and she began to translate Thai in a gibbering voice. "Mud howl. Mud howl. I can speak Chinese and understand it. I can't understand Thai very well. I'm from the Aka tribe and I mainly speak Aka." Lu Feng pointed at Zhu Lidong and Liukandeo behind him, "The two of them don't understand." "Is that so? Welcome, let me introduce you. This is another vice president of our group. Roar. This one is awesome. He is mainly responsible for technology, Mr. Cai." Liang Bin introduced the person next to him. Man wearing glasses. Lu Feng took a look at him. He was in his 40s, slightly feminine, not tall, about 1.7 meters tall. The two sides exchanged some polite words and presented Lu Feng with a bouquet of flowers. They praised their products in their words. Southeast Asia definitely has the best quality and the most affordable prices. Lu Feng entered the company surrounded by everyone. He first introduced the scale of the company to Lu Feng. It has tens of thousands of employees and annual sales of more than $5 billion. It cooperates with many international companies such as Intel, Toshiba, and Texas Instruments. At the same time, the largest the partner is Microsoft, and has already reached a cooperation with Microsoft. In the future, it will provide multiple equipment solutions such as processors and hard drives for Microsoft computers. Lu Feng felt embarrassed as he listened to Mr. Liang's boasting. Coupled with his accent, Mr. Zhang even walked aside in embarrassment. "Mr. Kuntai, let me tell you, they are rushing to get our products. Now the orders are very full and they are very popular all over the world." Mr. Liang may also feel that he is exaggerating and asked Lu Feng, "No Thai company has cooperated with us before. You are the first one. How long has your company been established? We transitioned from the rubber industry. Within a few years, we wanted to purchase a complete set of 2G signal processors for mobile phones. We mainly met Mr. Zhang, so we took a look and looked for the best partners around the world. Lu Feng said to him. It doesn't matter. We are friends when we come. Let's go to the wafer factory in a while. Our equipment is the most advanced in the world. Silicon materials can achieve world-class purity. I don't know much about this. Let Mr. Cai tell you. Mr. Liang looked at Mr. Cai with a smile. Mr. Cai took a step forward, adjusted his black-rimmed glasses with his hands, and said, our wafers have many technologies that are world-class. Among them, in terms of circuit etching, we use inert gas to make metal atoms more durable. Good crystals can conduct circuits with 30% more energy than other chips. Fast computing is one aspect. The most important thing in terms of durability is carriers. We are more stable in the carrier recombination rate, can effectively adjust voltage and current, increase service life, and are more stable. Lu Feng didn't know anything about technology. He turned around and glanced at Liukin, and said, Tufrog Kalu, private library, this Ziba technique or that technique is not right. Everyone present looked sullen as they listened to his hometown dialect. Mr. Liang glanced at the female translator, who shook her head and couldn't understand a word. Liukin analyzed, touching his chin with both hands and thinking about it. It wasn't that he had any technical difficulties, but he was mainly thinking about how to say this. He pondered for a while and said, Seeing his worried look, Zhu Lidong couldn't help but turned his head. Takara farts, how come you are talking about it, what a fool, Lu Feng said angrily, cursing in his mind, why doesn't this kid have any language talent? I'm holding it in, but it's usually just like that. It's loud, and European and American Kuru can't reach it. Liukin finally managed to hold it in, but he didn't know if Lu Feng understood. Lu Feng nodded slightly, turned back to look at Mr. Cai and said, my engineer told me that the current technology can't do it. Of course we hope to have something more stable and with a better signal reception frequency, but with your capabilities, I'm afraid it won't be possible. Zhu Lidong turned around and took a deep breath, secretly admiring Mr. Lu. He could understand this, which was amazing. We can experiment and test other manufacturers' communication chips and mobile phone circuit motherboards. Its stability and energy consumption are very good. Then we will go to the factory now. After speaking, Mr. Cai glanced at Liukin and said English asked, which school did you graduate from? Liukin glanced at him and said nothing, but everyone present understood his reaction, and it was obvious that he understood English. After a brief tour of the office space and an introduction to the corporate culture, the group got into a nanny car and rushed to the factory at 10:30 in the morning. The factory area is quite large, and the wafer foundry business is now in full swing. Along the way, Mr. Liang told Lu Feng about the scale, the recognition of the quality of their products by large European and American companies, and how many awards they have received. Sometimes when talking about some key positions, they would switch to English and speak to Lu Cheng. Their 2G technology patents are from Motorola, and some of their semiconductor patent technologies are licensed from Toshiba. The combination of the two can make the products more efficient. Especially in terms of digital compilation, it is much better than Nokia's patented technology. Jiafeng has absorbed Nokia's 2G technology better, but it's a pity that it has learned something now. Firstly, it has no equipment to put into production, and secondly, it has not obtained Nokia's patent authorization, otherwise it would not come here eagerly. The technology is the best in the world. The rest is to look at product design and production quality. As he got out of the car and looked around a huge dust-free workshop, Lu Feng was thinking about Jiafeng's future dust-free workshop. Basically, after understanding it, the most enviable thing is that they have complete equipment. This is a demonstration workshop. You can take a look at the data on signal reception and call delay. Mr. Liang looked at the demonstration table in front of him, waved to several workers, and started the demonstration on the spot. The current coverage of 2G signals is a radius of 5 kilometers. Some ordinary solutions cannot capture the signal when the digital signal is getting weaker and weaker. We use locking and high-intensity compilation to achieve high-quality calls. In this regard, it is 50% better than other manufacturers. Mr. Cai introduced at the side. Lu Feng raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He was not a fool. The coverage radius of a 2G signal tower is 5 to 10 kilometers. There will be signal loss beyond 5 kilometers, which means that you will not be able to hear a sentence during the call. As for the base station signal locking, it is a patent in the 4G era. During a live demonstration, a call was made with almost signal loss. Although the call quality was average and intermittent, Mr. Liang said that other manufacturers could not do it. Lu Feng looked a little bored and looked at Liuken. The card is bulging. I don't believe it. The signal is stuck in the Qi card, and you can't see it. After Liuken finished speaking, he didn't know if he understood. Zhu Lidong understood this, but Liuken didn't believe it. The signal was there, but your eyes couldn't see it. After Lu Feng heard this, he bent down to check the communicator fixed on the table for display. Mr. Liang said at the side, "Okay, I believe Mr. Kuntai has also seen it. It's getting late, let's go to eat. I'll introduce you to our product concept on the way." Lu Feng was abruptly interrupted and had no choice but to move forward. On the way to the hotel, Lu Feng also talked about his cooperation with Nokia. He just returned from Finland some time ago. The exchange between the two parties was very pleasant, but the shipping cost was too expensive, so he came here to take a look. Don't worry, our freight is definitely not expensive and the distance is close. Product quality is the foundation of a company. Let me tell you, it is your first time to make a mobile phone. The quality of the first batch must be good. What is the most important thing about a mobile phone? Of course, it's the communication quality. Mr. Liang started bragging about how good he was doing. When they arrived at the hotel private room, everyone had a nice chat. The waiter here was quite sweet looking, with a piece of cloth wrapped around his head, and he looked like someone from Xiajiabiu. As the food arrived, several bottles of sorghum wine were also placed on the table. Mr. Kuntai, I don't know if you can't get used to sorghum wine. If not, we can change it to red wine, Mr. Liang said thoughtfully. Everything is fine. Mr. Zhang told me before that your unit price may be a bit expensive. I want to know what the price can be if the quantity is large, Lu Feng asked the two of them. Before Mr. Liang could speak, Mr. Cai next to him said, "You get what you pay for." Mr. Kuntai must also know this. We are confident that we can quote such a price. You also visited our store today. The entire production process, product quality like this, and the price range will not be too big. Latest website.